Hello everyone, I'm that guy with a different opinion. I do video reviews that contradict the norm. And today I want to talk about Batman. Now, as pretty much everyone knows at this point, Ben Affleck has been cast as the next Batman in the upcoming Batman vs. Superman movie. And a lot of people have a lot of different opinions. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people are kind of in the middle. I decided, you know what, I want to go ahead and weigh in. However, I'm going to do it in a slightly different way. I think there's 6 main characteristics that make up the perfect Batman. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go over these 6 things, and I'm going to rank the previous Batmans as far as who I felt did the best and the worst in each category, ultimately revealing who I feel has been the best Batman so far. And then I'll go through and give my predictions as far as how I feel Ben Affleck is going to do in each category. Okay, now before I get too far into this, I just want to point one thing out. I do realize when you're portraying a character, it's not solely on the shoulders of the actor. There's also writing, there's also directing. Sometimes bad things happen in movies that isn't really the actor's fault. So I'm not placing so good or bad, I'm not placing sole responsibility on the actor. And I'm not really judging each actor in this. I'm just judging what eventually came on screen, whether it be the writing, the directing, or the actor, or a combination of the three. I'm simply just judging what we got. Alright, the number one thing, and in my opinion the most important aspect of Batman, the thing that makes him Batman more than anything else, is what most people, including myself, refer to as the fuck you on Batman attitude. Batman's the type of character where he's always thinking ahead, he's always got a plan, he's always self-assured, and therefore, with few exceptions, he's pretty much always confident he is going to win. You hardly ever see Batman get scared or surprised or anything like that, which is pretty impressive because for being a human being with no superpowers, he encounters a lot of pretty crazy stuff, not just characters like the Joker and the Riddler and stuff like that. I'm talking like characters like Clayface or Solomon Grundy or Killer Croc or even Superman, an alien from another planet. And not only is he generally unfazed by these, opponents, but 9 times out of 10, he's already prepared for it. Now, to be perfectly fair, none of the movie Batmans have been really that intelligent. However, I do think the Keaton one was the smartest. Because even though he may not have planned ahead and he may not have done anything extremely intelligent, but when Joker did the chemical thing, he had it figured out like 2 scenes later. And when Penguin set him up, he used his own words against him and turned the tables. So again, not necessarily Batman's, crowning achievements or anything, but at least when shit came his way, he knew what to do about it. All of the other movie versions of Batman, it either takes him the entire movie to figure out what's going on, or he constantly needs help. Which brings me to the second part of the fuck you on Batman attitude, is Batman's the type of character where he's very set in his ways. He doesn't like working with other people, and it's very hard for him to admit that he needs help. He has a lot of sidekicks in the comics, but I think in a weird way he sees it as he's helping them, not them helping him. But either way, like I said, he doesn't like doing partnerships, and even if he does, he's usually reluctant, and a lot of times he very rarely fully trusts the other person. Once again, I think Keaton was probably the most like a lone wolf type character. Some might argue a little too much of a lone wolf, being he didn't really work with Commissioner Gordon. However, Tim Burton did say that he was basing his movies more off the original Bob Kane stories. And in the original stories, Batman didn't work with Commissioner Gordon, so I'm actually okay with that. I also think they did a good job in the Kilmore version. Even though he does eventually team up with Robin, he's very reluctant to do so. I also thought they did a good job with it in Batman and Robin, because again, he is teamed up with Robin. But it's kind of an uneasy partnership. He doesn't fully trust him. The Bale version of Batman would trust anybody. And I mean literally anyone in these movies who says, hey, I will help you, he immediately trusts them. He was, without a shadow of a doubt, the most trusting and the most gullible Batman ever. Not just in the other movies, comics, TV shows, video games, everything. Hands down, this was the most gullible Batman ever. Some people have tried to say the same thing about the Keaton version, being he told all his girlfriends he was Batman, but actually, he didn't tell anyone. Alfred was the one who let Vicky Vale into the Batcave, which is uncharacteristic of Alfred, but you can't blame Batman for that. And he didn't tell Selina Kyle either. They both just kind of figured it out. But I think the biggest thing is just the overwhelming confidence. Just the fact that he's always confident, he's always sure of himself, and like he just has that attitude, like he always knows he's gonna win. And once again, I think Keaton was absolutely brilliant at this. I mean, just look at that. He's always confident, he's always sure of himself, and he just has that unbelievable intensity, like he truly believes he is unstoppable. But I think the scene that really cemented it for me was this one here. I mean, look at this. He's just walking, and without even looking, fuck you, I'm Batman. Then this guy comes around like, what, you think you're tough or something? Go ahead and hit me. Yeah, you definitely think you're tough. You know what? Fuck you, I'm Batman. None of the other Batmans were this much of a badass. And yes, I know he killed someone. But once again, when Tim Burton did this, he said he was basing it more off the original Bob Kane stories. And in those original stories, Batman had absolutely no problems killing the bad guys. I thought the Kilmore version was confident enough. However, he just didn't have the intensity that Keaton had. I also thought Clooney was very confident. I love the way he just so easily takes care of Robin there. But it didn't really feel like the right type of confidence. It never felt like this is a confident Batman. It just felt like this is confident George Clooney. Bale, I actually think, was probably the least confident. Because sure, he has moments where he's really confident, but there's also a lot of vulnerability and self-doubt. And not just in the first one. In fact, I actually think it gets worse as these movies go along. Not to say that Batman can never be vulnerable. All I'm saying is I think they do it a little too much. Because what makes Batman more than just a man is the fact that he truly believes it. And I know they say that in this film, but with the amount of vulnerability that they show and the amount of times he needs to ask for help, I think it kind of contradicts that point. So again, not saying that he's not confident at all, I'm just saying he's not confident enough. In category number 1, I think that Keaton was the best. I think he was the most intelligent, I think he was the most untrusting, the most self-assured, and overall the most intense, which will give him 4 points. 4 out of the 4. I think the second best was Val Kilmer, because again, even though he didn't quite have the intensity that Michael Keaton did, he still did have the confidence, and he still was kind of untrusting. So he gets the second slot, which will award him 3 points. And then Clooney, I think, gets the third spot, because again, even though it was kind of not the right type of confidence, at least it was confidence. And again, he was still very untrusting the way Batman is. So he gets the third spot, which will give him 2 points. Bale, I actually think, gets last here. I think he was the least confident. I think he was the most gullible. And I also think he was the least intelligent, sadly. So he gets the last spot, which will award him 1 point. Okay, so the next thing is the Batman persona. Because Batman doesn't just wear the costume just to scare the villains or just for protection. He also wears it to make himself feel like he's more than just a man, like he's some sort of creature or something like that. So when he puts on that suit, Bruce Wayne needs to disappear. And not just changing the voice, but you gotta change everything, even the little stuff. Keaton, I thought, was brilliant at this. Because once again, not only did he change the voice, but his mannerisms were different. His speech pattern was different. The words he used was different. The way he looked out at things was different. The way he moved was different. Everything was different than when he was Bruce Wayne. Now, some people try to argue that there's still classic Keaton in there a little bit, and yeah, there kind of is. But at the time, this wasn't really classic Keaton yet. I mean, what he had done before this was Mr. Mom and Beetlejuice, and there certainly wasn't any of that in his performances, and it was definitely different than his Bruce Wayne performance. If you look at what he does as Bruce Wayne and what he does as Batman, they are very different. Kilmore, I think, was pretty good at this. Again, he did good with the voice. Some of the facial expressions were different. There was still a little bit of it in there. I didn't think he did quite as good as Keaton did, but it was still pretty good. George Clooney just didn't even try to fool anybody. I mean, everything was the same. I mean, he was just George Clooney throughout that entire movie. Bale, I think, tried. However, he had a few things working against him. One of which was the story. Because in the comics, and even in the other films, we never see Batman and Bruce Wayne in the same light. We don't see Bruce Wayne training, and despite the fact that the character's been around for so long, we still know very little about Bruce Wayne as a person, which I think really helped with the duality of the character. They really do feel like separate people. it does feel like this is Bruce Wayne and this is Batman. But in the Bale version, we've seen so much of his training, and we know so much about him as a person, and we've seen him do a lot of Batman work as Bruce Wayne. I never really got the sense of a duality. To me, it felt like this is Bruce Wayne, and this is Bruce Wayne in a costume. But the biggest screw up was the voice. And I know everyone's gone on about this, so I'll try to be as brief as I can. And for most of you out there who defend it, I just want to be clear. It's not the fact that it's different. It's not the fact that he's using a different voice. I mean, again, Keaton used a different voice. Kilmore used a different voice. Kevin Conroy used a different voice. I'm okay with the voice being different. It's just the fact that it just sounds so freaking ridiculous and it just sounds so fake. I mean, this isn't creating a persona. This is creating a joke. It's so overpowering that a lot of people, that's all they take away from his entire performance. I mean, I cannot tell you how many people I've heard say, oh, playing Batman's easy. All you gotta do is get a mean look on your face and go, ugh. I mean, he's reduced the character to a freaking voice. And I think I'd be a little bit more forgiving if he just did it the first time, but no, he did it all 3 times, and it got worse each time. It was bad in Batman Begins, it got worse in The Dark Knight, and it got even worse in The Dark Knight Rises. There's no way that Nolan or Bale could try to defend that they didn't know. I mean, they freaking knew. 3 times, you freaking know. Everyone talked about this, everyone made fun of it, it kept getting worse. I mean, not even Batman and Robin has been made fun of as much as this voice has. They completely and knowingly made this character a joke. I give Bale a 0 in this category. I think Keaton is number 1, which will give him another 4 points. I think Val Kilmer was number 2, which will be another 3 points. I think Clooney was number 3. We'll give him the 2 points. Bale, I think, is last. He gets a 0 in this category.